Broadcasting to you from somewhere deep in the heart of Texas. Once again, it's me, Honey Ann. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. We're going to be speaking about friends today. The friendship factor. Since we just finished, it was 2 or 3 weeks working on the, going through the entire Apostles' Creed. And I looks like I'm having connectivity issues again with my internet. Hopefully it'll fix itself. So what can we say? Let's talk about the friendship factor. Well, I think there's plenty to discuss. Give me just a second. All right. I'm giving it a full minute since I started, so I guess we can get on with it. All right. So, this message is gonna talk about the benefit of choosing your friends carefully. And the key verse is Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and use. So it's midnight. You're on the highway. You break down. Who do you call? How do we choose our friends? If sinners entice you, drugs, partying, and all that, what are you going to do? Culture says we're more connected than ever, but in actuality, are we lonelier than ever? Proverbs, it's a book of wisdom. And, unfriendly friends are too easy to find. Let me come up here and look at Proverbs 1:10 and 11. Just a second. So, Proverbs 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. To understand a proverb and an enigma, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but tools despise wisdom and instruction. But fools, let me read that again, I botched it. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait to shed blood. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions, and we shall fill our houses with spoil. Casting our lot among us, let us all have one purse. Now, a righteous man is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. Proverbs 12:26. And Proverbs 22:24. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn his ways and get yourself ensnared. And bad company corrupts good character. That's 1 Corinthians 15:33. Fantastic friends are often hard to find. Proverbs 13:20. It says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So we're to choose wisely and carefully and listen to our parents. Proverbs 1:15 says, do not go along with them. You look for character or integrity. You look for loyalty and attitude, work ethic, respect for people and authority, humility over arrogance. Do not make friends with one easily angered. Proverbs 22:24. Jesus is our best friend, the most important friendship we could ever have. John 15:13-15. It reads as such. Just one second. Okay. Let me see here. It says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends. If you do what I command, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I have learned from my Father, I have shared with you, or made known to you. So, Jesus spent most of his life with 12 friends. He says, I call you friends. A servant does not know his master's business. So all of our friendships must meet his approval. And the second most important friendship is marriage. Genesis 2:18. It is not good for a man to be alone. In Proverbs 31:30. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. Who fears the Lord? And 2 Corinthians 6:4 says, do not be unequally yoked. Ask God to arrange your marriage. And the benefits of fantastic friends is in Proverbs 22:11. It says, one who loves a pure heart and who speaks with grace will have the king for a friend. So you'll be inspired, or wise. And accountability, wounds of a friend can be trusted. Proverbs 27:6. You will acquire wisdom, so you walk with the wise. Good sound advice. That's a good quality in a friend. A brother is born for adversity. Okay. Proverbs 22:11. One who loves a pure heart and who speaks with grace will have the king for a friend. And friendship is foundational to gospel witness. Luke 15:1-2. Jesus was a friend of sinners. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Luke 19. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. I think it's Zacchaeus. He was a thief. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. Now the tax collectors and the sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Friendship builders and transparency and vulnerability, listening skills, time, just being present, chemistry. Friendships can't be forced. And then we have common ground, we have balance and accepting one another and showing support of one another. And friends are inspiring. They give inspiration. They bring out the best in you. As iron sharpens iron. And as believers, talk about the Bible, God that sharps the community and its mission. Difficult seasons are bonding times. We can't plan these, but we can show up. And if you want to know how to kill a friendship or how to fracture a friendship, you talk too much, you ramble. Occasional rants are okay. Avoid being too dogmatic and avoid exalting yourself at other people's expense. Don't put down or insult your warriors. Avoid the woe is me attitude. One-upmanship, trying to prove yourself better than others. Or having a one-way friendship, where you never reach out, he never calls me. Or you take and never give. It's like, what do you want now? You know what I mean? And you never betray a confidence. If it's something that you told someone or someone's told you, never betray that. And never, ever take a kindness for granted. Don't ever fail to appreciate, or fail to say. Proverbs 13:20, he who walks with the wise will become wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. When I was a child, my parents and my godparents took me to see these beautiful sequoia trees, those great big huge redwood trees in California, 300 feet tall. These trees, they have shallow roots, but they're stable because the roots are intertwined. And that's how. So you should always bless a friend and be a friend. Always be there for them. Okay, I'm still here. You know, when we talk about Jesus, we're reminded what a friend he was to sinners. You know, I mean, who would have thought it? Anybody but him. He's the last to come to mind. So who's the least likely person you can imagine who would become a believer? Or who would be one among the least likely to follow Jesus? Can you see him? I mean, there he sits in front of his business, right on Main Street or on prime property, because, he has a monopoly and he can change whatever he wants, right? And because he can, he does. And behind his back, they call him a traitor and a turncoat. He's among the least respected people. His parents hoped he would choose a higher road. Well, Jesus and his disciples had just amazed the town by telling a paralyzed man to take up his bed and walk home. And the man did just that. But what was more amazing is that Jesus forgave his sins, which started grumblings of blasphemy. For who would claim authority to erase the record of a person's sin? Only God could do that, right? But then again, that was Jesus's point. He was God. He was God in the flesh. God made flesh, okay? But what he would do next was almost as jaw-dropping, okay? Sometimes you come across lost sheep for whom you were not necessarily looking. And the one telling the story is Matthew himself. So as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. Matthew 9:9. So there he was, the least likely person you would ever think that would join with Jesus. But the greater surprise of the invitation is not that Matthew could walk away from a profitable civil service job to follow, an itinerant preacher. No. The surprise of the invitation is that Jesus would ask one of the likes of Matthew to follow him in the first place, a tax collector. Combine the greed of Wall Street, executives, the audacity of an ambulance chasing lawyer, and the warm fuzziness of an Internal Revenue Service collector. Oh, yes. Now, a real lowlife to the community, socially hated, okay? He set his booth up anywhere in town and just would set up shop. Not only was he a Jewish man working for the hated Romans, but it's assumed that he extorted extra money for his own gain. Now, Caesar permitted a tax on almost anything. Your boat, fish you caught, your house, your crops. And as long as Caesar got his due, the collectors of the tax could keep the rest. So Mark and Luke tell us his given name was Levi, and it was a priestly name. And it makes you wonder if his parents wanted him to become a priest. If so, he surely turned out to be a disappointment. Yes, he had a big bank account, but not much else. And not invited to the neighborhood cookouts or the community events. He was avoided like the plague, except by other tax collectors and Jesus. Now, Jesus came up to him and said, follow me. And the easiest, produce to pick is the fruit that's ripe on the vine. Well, Matthew must have been ripe because he acted like Jesus meant, for this offer to be taken literally. In that moment, God gave Matthew an opportunity and he took it. So it's interesting that Matthew follows Jesus to Matthew's own house for dinner. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. Matthew 9:10. And the Bible, it doesn't say exactly how this gathering came about, but it's no leap of the imagination to think that Matthew was so grateful and amazed that he had the honor granted to him that he wanted to express his appreciation to Jesus and to establish some goodwill with the rest of the disciples. And if that were not enough, Matthew invited his friends, to all come out before hitting the road with Jesus. But remember, Matthew didn't have any real respectable friends. So he did what he could do. He invited the friends he had. And these were the assortment of friends our mothers warned us about people. They used salty language and had shady morals. Not one of them among the local church-going crowd. So it was an interesting combination. Disciples, a gang of tax collectors with some local religious types watching it all from the fringes. And Jesus and Matthew, smack dab in the middle, loving it all. Sinners and saints in the same room. The Saturday night ramblers are with the Sunday morning worshipers, and none of them seem to care who is who. But about the time the party was really getting fired up, in steps the Pharisees. And it's like all the air goes out of the room. And it's basically said that you can learn a lot about the kind of company a person keeps. And these Pharisees, well, they were ready to pass judgment on to Jesus for the company he was keeping. And it was scandalous to hang out with these folks. Scandalous to hang out with these folks, okay? So they asked the disciples a question full of scorn. Excuse me. So when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Matthew 9:12. Matthew 9:12 says, "On hearing this, Jesus said, 'It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick.'" Oh, Jesus and his words. Wow. So we have tax collectors, turncoats, and thieves, and sinners. They were not orthodox or committed to keeping the law. They did not do what they told them to do. They didn't keep the food laws, the rules about washing, etc. Okay. Thus, those who were obedient to the law had nothing to do with those who did not. Okay. And here Jesus was dining with them, embracing them. This cold water community, they saw it all wrong. They had it all backwards. What was happening was not so much that Jesus was hanging out with the sinners. The sinners were hanging out with Jesus. Hello. Part of the amazing attraction of Jesus' ministry is that the outcast wanted to be around him. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like you. Now, Matthew could see it. Why couldn't they? Jesus says it well. Is it not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick? And then he put it in their own language, quoting scripture claimed to follow so intensely. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Matthew 9:13. Hosea 6:6 wrote to people, who were just giving Jesus lip service. They were not truly humble or repentant. They had kept the rituals without the heart that should be behind them. Where is your love and compassion? Because Jesus was a man of love and compassion. But Jesus was such a friend to sinners. Now, Matthew went from being a dirty double-crossing dealer. The question is, where do you see yourself in this story? If you were at this party, at whose table would you be sitting? Would you be among the smug and the arrogant, or in the midst of the flawed and fatigued? The truth is, we sit at Matthew's table among Matthew's friends. It is a blow to our ego to admit it, but it is to those kind of folks at that table that Jesus said, "Follow me." Jesus is calling the broken and the weak, not the self-righteous and content. Jesus sees us for who we can be. And Matthew was a tax collector, and that is what everyone saw when they saw him. But Jesus saw more. He not only saw Matthew for what he was, Jesus saw him for what he could be. And what he ended up being was one of the four gospel writers. When Jesus approaches someone, and when he approaches you, he does not just see you for who you are, he sees you for who you can be. He believes the best in you rather than assumes the worst. So, we need to pray for these days. We really need to pray, that we see people the same way. And let us make an effort to see people the same way Jesus sees us. You find Jesus everywhere. Lori Capps of Annandale, Virginia, she tells the story of her 8-year-old daughter, Grace, an only child. Now, Lori often hears Grace after she's gone to bed whispering in her room. And sometimes Lori hears Grace's footsteps at night scurrying around the house, retrieving a doll or a stuffed animal. Now, one day Grace was whispering and Lori asked her, what she was doing. I'm playing hide and seek with God, Mom. And Lori laughed and she told her, Gracie, honey, don't you think that God can find you anywhere you hide? She rolled her eyes. Mom, I'm looking for God. So I love the passage that says Jesus, custom was to go to the synagogue every Sabbath. But I also love that he didn't mind hanging out in other places too. This story is the equivalent of Jesus going into the inner city and hanging out with the crack house. Hanging out in the crack house or perhaps a local bar. Think about it. You find Jesus with everybody. Read the Gospels. The Bible preserved, stories of Jesus talking with religious leaders like Nicodemus and respectable citizens like Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. But we also find him with government leaders, shunned lepers, Roman soldiers, adulterers, the demonic possessed, and folks of ill repute. And we all distance ourselves from certain people or certain crowds. Many people aren't proud to admit that, but they do. And it's true. No, I don't. I go anywhere and everywhere and hang out with anybody and everybody. It's the person's character that attracts me. The conduct of their character, okay? But Jesus, he's with them and he delights in the opportunity to start a relationship with them. And these undesirables are the very kind of people Jesus calls to follow him. Not the arrogant and self-righteous, who are self-deceived to think that they have it all together, but those who are part of the kingdom of God are the humble. Think of what you were when you were called, my brothers and sisters. Not many of you were wise by human standards, and not many were influential, and not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise, and God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. He chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things, and the things that are not, to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. 1 Corinthians 1:26-29. He likes them and he is reaching out to them with the gospel. And he is not too good to hang out with them. Folks are sick and they need help. Jesus is identifying with these people here without becoming like them. The critics of Jesus are sick too and in need of a physician, but they don't admit it. The one who admits his or her condition is far further on the way to healing than the one who refuses to admit that he has a problem. Change tables and join with Matthew's friends. Those that are quick to admit that you're morally bankrupt. Sin is your greatest problem and mercy is your greatest need. Those who humbly admit their need for mercy will always be the ones who find Jesus at their dinner table. And they will find this Jesus who is a friend for sinners. When you are found, you have an opportunity. A small window of opportunity opened for Matthew. He didn't miss it. Do you want to be found? If so, and you hear Jesus' voice today say, follow me, follow him. What if Matthew had not followed? What if? What would he have missed? What would he have missed? Non-Christians identify with a Jesus who loves you unconditionally. There are opportunities we dare not miss. One of them is right now. If the iron is hot, the spirit is moving, the heart is tender, go. Christians embrace sinners like Jesus did. Y'all better. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Roots Magoo. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well today. My stomach's on fire, man. I don't even know why. I'm trying to pop my back. No. Covetousness is described by Jesus as getting rich towards self without getting rich towards God. And Christians are warned to take heed and beware of it. You know, the happiest man is not the one who possesses the most, but the man who lives to please God and shares with others the good things God has trusted him. You know, no one will ever be saved who's living just for self. He's got to come to the place where, being convicted of sin, he turns from it and puts his trust in Christ alone for salvation. Sorry, I'm having a horrible cramp. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Y'all, thanks for joining. I'll catch you about this time tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.